Hello viewers, I am Dr. Akash Singh, Assistant Librarian with National University Delhi. Today we are going to learn about literature review under research methodology module. The topic of this unit is review of literature. In this module, we will learn about importance of literature review in research, features of literature review, why literature review is included in a research or purpose of literature review in research, various type of methods of collections of literature and presentation of literature review, key aspects of literature review, various steps to be considered while doing literature review. So, a literature is a written record involved already settled theories of research, in-depth information about a topic, finding of experimental research, coordination of previous written statements with the current findings, and original set of thoughts of scholars, scientists, and researchers. Literature too include ancient manuscripts, religious and political writings, and social and economical statistics. Research is based on searching of new facts based on already established theories and intellectual findings. Literature in specific sense is a set of information pertaining to research area or topic. It may be original or first research published in research academic journals, research papers published in conference and seminars, historical documents, and creative or innovation literature pertaining to research topic. Literature are too referred from secondary sources like reviews, commentaries, critical analysis, and evaluation report, digest, directories, encyclopedia, and handbooks. Tertiary sources like indexes and directories are referral sources of literature which the researchers have to refer at initial stage of research. Research involves explanation of previous research to bridge the current research with already established records. The bridging of gap in research is performed through summarizing previous literature in the research, which is called review of previous literature or review of literature review. According to Hart, he elaborates literature review as a process where detailed summary or critical evaluation or previous research and non-research literature pertaining to current research problem is being studied and mentioned in the study. Another thinker, Cornwell and Daly, they explain literature review has its primary goal to update with current literature on the topic of research with historical evidence and to justify future based on already established facts. They further explained that a good literature review involves related studies from various past and present source about a particular area of study with clear search and selection strategy. The primary purpose of literature review is to facilitate detailed background of the previous studies to the readers on a topic of research. Literature review consists of several features like literature review facilitates new interpretations of already established facts or correlate current with previous interpretations. Literature review helps in tracking intellectual continuance of the subject field. Literature review notes evaluative and critic comments on literature on the subject field which are very useful for future researchers. Literature review in its concluding part involves comments for bridging the gap, explaining how a research problem has been researched till date. A literature review must not only be compatible but also give contrast on views of different authors on the given research area. The author drawing similar conclusions and adverse comments, including criticism and contrary issues, must also be included for justification of subject areas. Literature review must also show the gap between research with timeline of the study for correlated previous studies. Now we will discuss about the purpose of literature review in research. A good literature review supports a number of purposes, enhancing visibility of research from past to current period of research. Literature review is drawn up with a purpose of define and limit the research question or hypothesis drawn on basis of research problem. Literature review supports correlations of previous studies in the similar field to justify new field of research outcome. Another major purpose of drawing literature review is to avoid duplication of research considering already procedure research work. Research methods are evaluated through assessing previous research of the similar nature. Literature review considers plans and future areas of research in lieu of historical streamlines of similar nature of researchers. Now we will discuss various types of literature reviews. Literature reviews is a systematic presentation of previous literatures related to field of study. The method of literature reviews depend on nature of research problem. Sometimes it is based on research problems pertaining to different subject areas. Literature review are categorized in 4 categories. These are narrative literature review, systematic literature review, meta-analysis method of literature review, meta-synthesis method of literature review. The first method of literature review is narrative literature review. This is very general and also called traditional method of literature review. Under this method, reviewers generally summarize the body of literature. A conclusion on the basis of literature referred is drawn on different subsections of the research. The previous related studies and research in the form of research articles, reports and monographs are generally collected under this method, evidentiary support of the research. This method is basically used for compiling a volume of relevant literature on a specific subject field. The method supports facilities visualize backgrounds studies for better understanding current information signifying new research areas. Gap between research during the timeline may also be identified for evaluate inconsistency in a body of knowledge. Another method of literature review is systematic literature review. Systematic literature review starts with formulation of the research questions. It is designed and formulated on the basis of answers of the questions formulated on the basis of specific subject field. It is known as well-defined approach of literature review due to its clinical approach or of reviewing previous research work in the same field on specific research area. Systematic literature review involves a formulated criteria for assessing collecting reliable and valid literature. Parahu explains systematic review as the method which involves a time frame for selecting research studies pertaining to a limited period for systematic literature review. According to Parahu, a review must have to follow precise criteria as under. Initially, it is required to formulate a set of questions based on research problem, criteria visualizing, including inclusion and exclusion to show line of subject field have to drawn. On the basis of questions framed and criteria drawn, select literature. After checking quality is adopted in the review. After selected relevant review, the review are analyzed, synthesized and findings are disseminated. The prime purpose of adopting systematic review, literature review method is to facilitate a complete list of published or unpublished literature on a particular subject area under a given time frame. The basic difference between traditional and systematic review is selection criteria, identification and critically evaluation and synthesis of literature which is not observed in traditional review. The next and third method is meta-analysis method of literature review. Meta-analysis method involves statistical techniques in literature review. It is a systematic review of literature. It involves collection of data from previous studies, comparison involving statistical methods and tabulation for showing comparison of data presented in studies of a particular timeline. Pollock and Beck argue that meta-analysis review method is very helpful in drawing conclusions and finding patterns and relationship between findings of previous literature based on statistical value. This method of studies is very useful in comparison of different studies on same subject area differentiated on the basis of demographical or group involved. The fourth and the last method of literature review is meta-synthesis method of literature review. Under this method involves comparison of findings of multiple quantitative research studies. The major difference between meta-analysis and meta-synthesis method is to use non-statistical techniques in meta-synthesis method. The review of literature under the method support identifying common variables and theme persisted in the previous studies. Pollock and Beck state importance of meta-synthetic method. They argue that method is more reliable for drawing conclusions of each individual's researcher for formulating new conceptualization and interpretation. Now we will discuss key aspects of literature review. Literature review is totally different from annotated bibliography and abstract. Annotated bibliographies generally include bibliographical information with a precise summary of giving overview of the document or research paper. However, literature review involves details about research problems and conclusions given in the research document. On the other side, abstracting is another form of summarizing a research work for shortening understanding to reader. Abstracting is performed in data centers to intimate about subject matter of the research document but not including conclusion. So we can say that abstracting is also differ from literature review process. So, the key aspects of the literature review may be understood as collection of primary resources like research papers, research reports, monographs, patent, standards, and other primary data. The description, evaluation, and integration of the material found in this collection. Now we will discuss a number of steps in writing literature review. Mongon Raleigh and Helen suggest 8 steps for writing literature reviews based on research papers of Galvin J. on writing literature reviews, a guide for student behavior science. Review of literature is primary step building structure of a research. These 8 steps are: review citation style, finalize research topic and subtopic, identify the literature, analyze the literature, summarize the literature in table or concept map format, synthesize the literature prior to writing the review, and the last one is developing a coherent essay. The first step of literature review is to understand citation style to be used for citing information resources. Before starting literature review, reviewer has to decide the citation manual to be used. A number of citation manuals have been used for writing bibliographical information of the research papers. For example, APA style, MLA style, Chicago Manual, Blue Book, Oscola, and many more. You will get more about the citation manuals and citation style in the module citation under research methodology. The next important step under the literature review is to finalize research topic and its subtopic. It helps in understanding the subject areas on which literature has to be collected. Topic and subtopics must be selected carefully for tracing right direction of the research. And the next step in reviewing of literature is identify the literature. This is the most tedious task in literature review. After finalization of research topic and subtopic, reviewer has to collect literature from various sources of information. Primary information recorded in the form of academic articles, research reports, research thesis, government documents, trend review reports, patent and standard documents, monograph, unpublished literatures, letters, memoirs, biographies and autobiographies, and other relevant documents are to be explored for matching subject areas of the research. Search of primary sources begin with exploring secondary and tertiary sources of information, which gives ways and directions for pinpointed primary resources. Analysis the literature collected is the next step, where all literature collected in the form of research papers or else has been overviewed with a motive to classify the literature on the basis of subtopics of the research. Literature is further grouped in various sections and keeps separately for better classification of all subtopics. During analysis process, reviewer must be concentrate on various notes like decision on format of the notes to the review literature, defining keywords or terms, selection of statistics or quotes in the literature to be included in introductory part of research, considering strength and weakness mentioned in literature about your research area, identifying major trend or patterns of previous and current research trends, identification of gap and relation among previous studies, concentrate over reviewing literature strictly within the scope of research area, and finally evaluating reviews which are current and having board coverage. The next step of literature review is to summarizing the literature collected and analyzes in tables or concept map for easy understanding and visualize. Galvin defines that a reviewer must take a serious note during summarizing the literature. He instructs that reviewers must formulate a table using MS Word or MS Excel having a number of columns to note 3 basic information, including definitions of key terms mentioned in the literature to be reviewed, research method used in these literature, and summaries and outcome of the research results in these literatures. The table presented of the literature facilitates knowing various developmental issues of the research. It brings gap between researches on a similar field. It helps timely findings on the research topic chronologically. It is helpful in knowing a number of research methods used for the current research problem by various researchers, which results adopting possible manner for current research. Results of various researchers are easily compared, which help to formulate more accurate results. And the next step of literature review is synthesize the literature review prior to writing review. The step is just immediately a step of final writing of the review. Under this step, reviewers are advised to concentrate on purpose of the research, focusing on relevant key terms pertaining to current research work. Reviewers are advised to number of checklist. Galvin formulates such guidelines for synthesizing the literature prior to write reviews. He articulates the following steps. The reviewer must reorganize his or her notes on the basis of argument, recognizing literature notes on basis of subheading, planning to describing relevant theories in literature, and correlation of literature in planned way to be included in the study. Planning to present theories in the literature based on timeline and alphabetically. The next point he suggests is the planning to visualize conclusion and finding of previous studies, planning to include suggestions on the basis of theories and future prospects of the study, fleshing out primary outline drawn for starting research change with evidence based format arising out of literature table. The next step is writing the review. Galvin states the initiation process for writing the review based on literature collected, analyzed, synthesized, and tabled. He states to identify the research problem with avoiding global statement, writing importance of review of literature and importance about studies to be reviewed, correctly counting of timeline of the studies included in reviewing of literature, identifying or best visualization of important study, clear-cut mentioning topic where research studies do not persist, and drawing the studies to where results were not persistent in past separately, and citing references pertaining to research study in review section only. Next and last step of literature review is developing a coherent essay. Finally, reviewer has enough organized content to write and shaped the literature in review in the current study. While developing a coherent essay, Galvin suggests including coverage and exclusion in the beginning of the literature review. Review must have proper heading and subheadings. A conclusion or finding must accompany in the word of the reviewer at the end of each review. It must be noted that the flow of writing of review must be correlated with previous and next review for best understanding of research work. Now, after getting through this module, you will get overview on various aspects of literature review. After going through this module, reader would be well acquainting with various type of literature review. Readers would get the purpose of literature review. Various steps to be considered in writing literature review have also been discussed in this unit. So, after going through this module, you would be able to inculcate number of learning outcomes. I am repeating it again. Importance of literature review in research, feature of literature review, why literature review is included in a research with purpose of literature review, various types of method of collection of literature and presentation of literature review, key aspects of literature review, various steps to be considered while doing literature review. So, students, I hope this module would definitely be useful for you, and I wish you all the best for your examination. Have a good day.